Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins on the resolution.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and thank you for your biblical reading, because indeed Dr. King was a peacemaker. Today is always special for me. I think about Dr. King's birthday celebration as the start of a new year, a new beginning, a time for hope, and a time for promise. And it's especially meaningful this year when we need so much hope and so much promise. And you know what? That hope and promise was here, at least on the horizon. November 3rd, we had an amazing election. We had an election that would begin restoring the soul of this country, a country that Dr. King envisioned, one filled with hope and promise for all, not one that protected a few and persecuted the rest, not one that ripped children from their mother's arms while seemingly condoning bigotry and hatred, sometimes in the name of patriotism. In November, the majority of people stood up and said they voted for hope and promise, for a United States of America, and we took that step. We elected Joe Biden and made history with Kamala Harris, the first woman, first Black and South Asian woman to hold that position. And on January 5th, we had another election. Again, hope and promise showed up, this time in Georgia. John Ossoff, a mentee of the late Congressman John Lewis, a Jewish young man elected to the United States Senate, and Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock, a reverend who holds Dr. King's pulpit at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, a historic win. Just think about it. A preacher who stands behind the pulpit that Dr. King stood behind, a preacher whose mother was a sharecropper, is going to the United States Senate. Hope and promise indeed. Yet the next day, everything seemed to crash down. Confederate flags, Nazi imagery, nooses, gallows, crosses that were set to burn, paraded through the Capitol, our Capitol. A hateful and bigoted mob in many ways tried to snatch away hope and promise. The hope and promise that was born of free and fair elections. The kind of elections that Dr. King fought so hard for. The kind of elections that he fought for when Bloody Sunday happened. The kind of elections that said that African Americans as citizens were supposed to and must be part of. And sadly, that was kind of what January 6th was about, overturning the elections, challenging the votes of African Americans across this country. Over 55 years ago, Dr. King stood strong in the face of hate and terror of yesterday to give us the hope and the promise of today. He marched across that bridge and bridges all over this country on that brutal Bloody Sunday and everywhere else. And ultimately, he gave his life, all for hope and promise. And on this past weekend, we celebrated Dr. King's legacy. And we were reminded, probably more profoundly than ever, that there will always be powerful voices, pushback, and even terror against hope and promise. November 3rd, hope. January 5th, promise. And yes, January 6th, terror. But even so, that's why we draw on the memory of Dr. King, the power and the strength and the courage of his vision, the courage against seemingly insurmountable odds. We need to use that to hold on to hope for the promise of America and the belief in its ideals. On this inauguration day, let us remember what Dr. King said. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Because of Dr. King's legacy and those whose shoulders we stand on, we have hope. Finally, I want to end by saying God bless Joe Biden, God bless Kamala Harris, God bless New York State, God bless the United States of America. Thank you.